Hello and welcome to Unbroken Homes, Understanding the Role of Relational Satisfaction for Adult Children of Divorce. My name is Lacey. I'm a master's student in the clinical psychology program at Azusa Pacific University. Today I'm going to spend a few minutes sharing about my research project. First, I'll explain my population. Second, I'll point out key findings and some missing findings in the existing literature on this population. Lastly, I'll share the design of my survey and the exciting results. Let's begin with a look at my population. 1 million US children experience divorce each year. When I read a statistic like this, I don't know about you, but I go through a series of reactions. First, I'm overwhelmed by the size of this group. I'm curious about where the data comes from and what it communicates about so many children in this country. And as an adult child of divorce myself, I'm filled with empathy for the children who walk through pain, grief, ambiguity, and confusion that comes with a parent's decision to divorce. I also consider the strength and interpersonal skills and courage of this group who witnessed intimate conflict and disruption in the people that they love the most. I wanted to study this population because I am one. It's a label that carries great stigma, at least in the religious community that I grew up in. The D word, divorce, was assigned to only the worst of marriages, like a scarlet letter next to the family name. To demonstrate my population, I chose this image of a woman looking at a framed photo. It most closely captures what I've experienced since my parents' divorce 8 years ago. Sometimes I'm caught in nostalgia. I'm treasuring memories that feel like looking at a past life. Sometimes I still grieve for family moments that won't go the way I pictured them going years ago. And yet, I've grown. I've learned firsthand what it takes to make intimate relationships meaningful, and I've also seen my parents rebuild meaningful lives with new partners. Divorce is not the last word in my family's story, regardless of how scarlet the word may appear to others, and it shouldn't be the last word in the research either. For the purposes of my study, I defined adult children of divorce as anyone over the age of 18 whose parents divorced at some point during their lifetime. Relational satisfaction is defined as the interpersonal and co-constructed evaluation of the positivity of one's feelings towards one's partner and attraction to the relationship. A label like adult child of divorce, which carries various amounts of stigma, is paired with a concept that is inherently individual in nature. No one can define for you what your own level of relational satisfaction is. That constructivist approach was important for me to take with this population, who is often stereotyped in negative ways. Now let's turn to the literature. What I found again and again in recent research on adult children of divorce is the presence of profoundly complex realities. Many studies point to negative outcomes, like lower subjective well-being and poorer parent-child relationships. Yet those same studies and others acknowledge the powerful presence of additional support from grandparents, siblings, friends, all of whom strengthen adult children of divorce. What I did not find was a study on how adult children of divorce experience relational satisfaction in their most intimate relationships. One qualitative study mentioned that all participants who had a significant other talked about that person and turning to that person for strength or comfort during the process of their parents' divorce. In this image here, we see perhaps a child telling the parent, "Of course it's your choice, but so are the consequences." The literature shows there are significant consequences for children when their parents decide to divorce. But there are also significant gains and areas of support for this population, especially when they have a support system to lean on. On to my survey and to the results. I can't get no. Hopefully satisfaction is the word that you've thought of to complete that sentence. What you see here is the relationship assessment scale created by Dr. Sue Hendricks in the late 1980s. Since its creation, the scale has been used in multiple studies to prove as a reliable predictor of measuring relationship satisfaction. Hendricks' use of the word partner opens up this survey to a wider participant pool. I also like the simple format of the survey and its brief nature. I thought hopefully that would encourage study participants to complete the survey. My goal was 50 participants, and I was able to recruit 49. I should have raised my goal to 60. But in all seriousness, I was thrilled with the turnout. I'm not a Facebook or Instagram user, and so I relied on my friends who use those platforms, a word of mouth, and emails to spread the word. This is where I can say thanks to all of you who took this survey or shared it with people you know who fit my population's description. The demographics point to a variety of participants from different backgrounds. I was particularly interested in the age variation, the age when parents divorced in the participant's life. I expected most to have parents who divorced after 18, but it turns out 57.1% experienced the divorce between the ages of 6 and 18. Ultimately, I was able to continue on with 31 respondents who described as being currently in a romantic relationship. Those who were not currently in a romantic relationship did not continue on in the survey to take the relationship assessment scale. Here you can see the average scores for each question on the relationship assessment scale. The highest average was 4.87 in response to how much do you love your partner? Over 90% of respondents chose 5, very much. The lowest average score was 1.45 for how often do you wish you hadn't gotten in this relationship? 71% of respondents chose 1, which meant never. With thanks to Dr. Frank Berry, I was able to identify several moderate to strong correlations in my study. I chose to show a few of them to you here that are all connected to the question, how well does your partner meet your needs? Turns out that's a strong question. That makes sense to me as a marriage and family therapist. In my work with couples, I can certainly see how each partner looks to both meet needs and to have their needs met. The data from the study revealed an especially strong correlation at 0.863, which is statistically significant at the 0.01 level. In other words, for my respondents, generally speaking, the more their partner met their needs, the more satisfied they were in the relationship. Makes sense. On the flip side, a negative correlation was found between how well their partner meets their needs and how often they wish they hadn't gotten in this relationship. It was moderately strong at negative 0.604 and statistically significant at the 0.01 level. Again, this data adds up with my logic. If their needs aren't getting met in the relationship, they may likely be wishing they'd made a different choice. These findings are like small nuggets of gold, as Dr. Berry put it, and I do hope to go looking for gold more often to see what else is yet to be discovered. After this study, I'm left with more questions than when I started. I want to get greater breadth of sample size to further strengthen what the data shows. Adult children of divorce experience relational satisfaction. I want to increase the depth of exploration as well to discover how relational satisfaction changes for a child when their parents divorce, and to acknowledge their unique interpretation of the most intimate relationships in their lives. A qualitative study could do nicely here. It might also prove interesting to compare these stories with those of children from non-divorced households to better understand how parental divorce may mitigate outcomes. This study did not awaken a passion in me. It gave the passion I already had for sharing stories and experiences of this population meaningful work to do. I loved the process of discovery, and I'd be glad to talk. If you have questions, feedback, or you have a similar interest in this population, feel free to send me an email at ltanis@apu.edu. Thanks so much for your time and for your attention.